Level 1. The county file. Down here, death has no lawyers, no heirs on file, and no inheritance to fight over. The county handles everything because there is nothing to hand down and nobody to notify. This is a climb through the entire American estate system, from probate court and estate taxes to the living trusts and dynasty trusts that let serious net worth skip death entirely. Die with nothing, and a county clerk spends a few days searching for relatives. If nobody claims you within about 30 days, you become a line item in a municipal budget. Unclaimed dead, Los Angeles County. Over 1,400 people buried together each year. Los Angeles County cremates its unclaimed dead and stores the ashes for years, waiting. Every December, workers bury more than 1,000 people at once in a single, unmarked communal grave. New York does the same thing at industrial scale. More than 1 million people lie on Hart Island, the largest public cemetery in America, buried for decades by crews from the city jail. Even a tiny estate owes its debts before anyone inherits. The funeral home, the hospital, and the credit card company all file claims, and the law pays every one of them first. Cannot cover a $400 emergency, 37% of U.S. adults. There is usually no cushion for the people left behind either. The Federal Reserve keeps finding that nearly 4 in 10 American adults could not cover a $400 emergency. Average U.S. funeral cost, $8,300 with viewing and burial. Yet the average American funeral with a burial now costs about $8,300 before the plot and the headstone. For millions of families, the first inheritance is a bill. At this level, the estate system barely notices your death. There is nothing to probate, nothing to tax, and nothing to fight over. The moment you own something real, that changes. Level 2, the intestate. Now you own a house, a car, and a retirement account, and like most Americans, you never wrote a will. So the state you live in writes one for you, American adults with no will. 2 in 3 of the adult population. The surveys keep landing on the same embarrassing number. Roughly 2 out of every 3 American adults have no will at all, and most of them will die before fixing it. Dying without a will is called dying intestate. Your state's succession statute then divides everything you own by formula: spouse, children, parents, siblings, in a rigid order written decades before you were born. The formula has no idea who you actually loved. An unmarried partner of 20 years inherits nothing at all. An estranged brother you have not spoken to since 2009 takes a legal share. What looks like family sorts it out is really a statute decides everything. Most people assume the family will quietly sort things out around a kitchen table. In reality, a probate judge and a 70-year-old statute make every single decision on your behalf. In 2016, the musician Prince died intestate, leaving master tapes, real estate, and an active music empire behind. No will existed, no trust, no beneficiary forms, no instructions of any kind. His estate spent 6 full years in probate court, while administrators and attorneys billed it by the hour. By the 2022 settlement, tens of millions had vanished into fees and tax disputes. Aretha Franklin left an estate reported near $80 million and no formal will. Her sons then spent 5 years in court over 2 handwritten documents, one found under her couch cushions. That is the intestate deal at any net worth. A court appoints a stranger as administrator, charges your estate for its own supervision, and publishes the entire process in the public record. Level 3. The will. So you do the responsible thing and sign a will. Here is what almost nobody tells you. A will does not avoid probate court. A will is your admission ticket to it. Probate is the court process that proves the will, appoints your executor, notifies every creditor, and supervises each distribution. In most states, it runs 9 to 18 months, and contested cases run years. Several states let attorneys charge a statutory percentage of the gross estate. In California, probating an ordinary $1 million home generates over $47,000 in completely standard fees. Gross value is the quiet trick. The fee is calculated on the full market price of the house, not your equity in it. A heavily mortgaged home bills exactly like a paid-off one. Your executor is usually a grieving spouse or an adult child. They sign the filings personally, inventory every asset, answer to the judge, and carry legal liability for mistakes while they mourn. Probate files are public records. Anyone can walk into the courthouse and read your account balances, your property list, your debts, and the full names and addresses of everyone who inherits. That publicity feeds an entire industry. Inheritance scammers and predatory cash home buyers pull the fresh probate filings every week, then cold call grieving families with lowball offers on the frozen house. And frozen it is. While the case crawls, insurance lapses, the mortgage still bills every month, and heirs can watch the roof leak for a year before anyone can legally sell. Typical probate cost: 3% to 7% of the gross estate. Add it all up, and probate typically consumes 3 to 7% of a gross estate through fees, bonds, appraisals, and court costs. On middle-class wealth, that is serious money for paperwork. A will can also be contested. Any disappointed relative can file an objection for a few $100s, freeze the entire estate, and let lawyers on both sides bill it monthly. Level 4. The step-up. Around here, the system quietly starts working for you instead of on you. The first gift is that much of your wealth can already skip probate without any trust at all. Your $401,000 IRA and life insurance pass by beneficiary designation, straight to the named person with no judge involved. Bank and brokerage accounts can do the same with transfer on death forms. Married couples get another quiet bypass. A home held in joint tenancy passes automatically to the survivor, completely outside probate, the moment a death certificate gets filed with the county recorder. Then comes the strangest rule in the American tax code, sitting in Section 1014. It is called the step-up in basis, and your death is the event that triggers it. Say your parents bought stock for $100,000 and watched it grow to $1 million. If they sell it alive, capital gains tax. If they die holding it, the gain evaporates. The heir's cost basis resets to the market value on the date of death. Sell the very next morning, and the IRS treats a lifetime of growth as if it never existed. Cost of the step-up rule: about $50 billion per year in foregone tax. This is not a loophole someone forgot to close. It is deliberate law, and it is enormous. Forgiving unrealized gains at death costs the Treasury roughly $50 billion every single year. Now the strategy writes itself. Never sell the appreciated asset. Hold the winning stock, the rental building, the business until death, and let the basis reset wipe the tax bill clean. But the biggest problems remain unsolved at this level. The house still probates, your affairs still go public, and everything you own still counts toward one number the IRS is quietly watching. Level 5. The living trust. This is the first structure that makes probate court fully optional. It costs a few $1,000s, takes a few weeks to build, and most quiet millionaires already have one. A revocable living trust is a legal container. You retitle your house and your accounts into it, name yourself trustee, and keep total control. Nothing about your daily life changes at all. At your death, the successor trustee you chose simply follows the document. Assets move to your heirs within weeks, privately, with no judge, no public file, and no statutory attorney percentage. Run the same $1 million estate through both doors, and the difference is stark. One path takes more than a year and plays out in public. The other is a private signature. The trust also covers incapacity. If a stroke leaves you unable to manage money, your successor steps in the same day, with no conservatorship hearing and no court-appointed stranger running your accounts. The catch is discipline. A trust only controls what it legally owns, and families constantly forget to retitle new houses and new accounts. Unfunded trusts quietly fail into probate every single day. Understand what it does not do. A revocable trust is invisible to the IRS while you live. Every dollar inside still counts as yours, and still counts toward the federal estate tax. What looks like court, delay, publicity is really the estate tax. This is where most estate planning stops, because it fully solves the middle-class problem. Court avoided, privacy kept, family spared. The tax problem only exists higher up this ladder. Level 6. the estate tax line. Somewhere above 8 figures of net worth, a line appears in the sky. Below it, death is federally tax-free. Above it, the government becomes the largest heir you never named. Federal estate tax exemption, 2026, $15 million per person. In 2026, the federal estate tax exemption sits at $15 million per person, $30 million for a married couple. Everything above the line gets taxed at 40% on death. Estates that owe federal estate tax. About 0.1% of all U.S. deaths. Here is the punchline the debate never mentions. Out of roughly 3 million American deaths a year, only about 4,000 estates owe any federal estate tax whatsoever. Nearly nobody actually pays. Estate tax on a $50 million estate. $14 million due in cash. The danger is dying unprepared. A founder who dies holding a $50 million company owes roughly $14 million in federal tax, due in cash within 9 months of the funeral. That deadline has forced families to sell businesses, farms, and buildings at fire sale prices just to pay the bill. So an entire profession exists to make sure the bill never arrives. The first gate is simply giving money away early. You can hand about $19,000 per recipient per year, gift tax-free, forever, and the amounts never touch your exemption. A couple with 3 married children and 6 grandchildren can quietly move over $400,000 a year down a generation, and the IRS never even requires a form. The second gate is life insurance. Held personally, the payout swells your taxable estate. Held inside an irrevocable trust called an ILIT, millions arrive to your heirs completely estate tax-free. Notice the word irrevocable, because it defines everything above this line. Every serious structure now requires truly giving assets away on paper, while carefully keeping exactly the benefits you care about. Level 7. The freeze. Past $30 million, the lawyers stop merely protecting assets and start freezing them. The game is moving future growth out of your estate before that growth legally exists. The signature tool is the Grantor Retained Annuity Trust, the GRAT. You place assets into a short-lived trust and take back annuity payments equal to everything you put in. The IRS assumes the assets will grow at a modest published hurdle rate. Every dollar of growth above that assumption passes to your heirs with 0 gift tax and 0 estate tax. And if the bet fails, the assets simply come back to you, and you start another GRAT next month. Heads, your heirs win tax-free. Tails, you lose nothing but legal fees. Casino billionaire Sheldon Adelson ran about 30 GRATs in a single decade. Bloomberg calculated that he passed $7.9 billion to his heirs and legally avoided roughly $2.8 billion in tax. The technique survives because of a woman named Audrey Walton of the Walmart family. Her tax court victory in 2000 blessed the zeroed-out GRAT, and Congress has never closed it. These are not fringe maneuvers either. The same GRAT structure has surfaced in disclosures tied to the founders of Facebook and Nike, printed in fine print that almost nobody ever reads. The second freeze is the valuation discount. Move the family business or the buildings into a family-limited partnership, then gift shares that nobody outside the family could realistically ever sell. Typical FLP valuation discount: 20% to 40% off appraised value. Appraisers then discount those shares 20 to 40% for lack of control and lack of marketability. $10 million of real assets crosses to the kids as 6 or 7 on paper. Stack these tools, and your taxable estate stops growing while the real fortune compounds elsewhere. One problem remains. The estate tax strikes again at every generation, unless you delete the generations. Level 8. The Dynasty Trust. This is the structure the whole climb was pointing toward, the one that makes death invisible to the tax man. It lives in South Dakota, and it is built to outlast the country. For centuries, an Old English rule called the rule against perpetuities forced every trust to eventually end and pay out its wealth. In 1983, South Dakota quietly abolished the rule entirely. A dynasty trust never has to end. You seed it using your generation's skipping exemption, and the trust itself owns the assets forever. no beneficiary ever technically owns anything at all. That sentence is the entire trick. Estate tax applies to what you own at death. Your grandchildren can live off the trust their whole lives while owning nothing taxable when they die. Seed one with the full $15 million exemption and let it compound at 7%. The arithmetic across a single century explains why nearly every billionaire family already has one. South Dakota added the sweeteners. No state income tax on the trust, court records sealed automatically and forever, and asset protection so strong that divorcing spouses and creditors rarely reach $1. Assets in South Dakota trusts. Over $500 billion administered in-state. The Prairie noticed what it had built. South Dakota chartered trust companies now administer hundreds of billions of dollars, much of it for families who have never set foot in the state. Other states raced to copy the formula. Nevada, Alaska, Delaware, and Wyoming now sell their own versions of trust immortality, and America quietly became the fastest-growing tax haven on earth. The 2021 Pandora Papers found tycoons from Ecuador, Brazil, and China parking family fortunes in Sioux Falls office parks. Foreign wealth now flies into South Dakota the way it once flew to Switzerland. Level 9. Death invisible. At the very top, every structure merges into one quiet machine, and dying becomes a paperwork event that no court, no journalist, and almost no tax collector will ever see. The playbook even has a nickname: buy, borrow, die. Buy assets and never sell them. Borrow against them for spending cash at low interest because loans are not taxable income. Then death arrives and completes the trade. The step-up erases a lifetime of capital gains, the loans get repaid, and the freshly cleansed assets already sit inside trusts beyond the court. The Great Wealth Transfer. $84 trillion passing to heirs and charity by 2045. The timing matters, because America is entering the largest wealth transfer ever recorded. An estimated $84 trillion will change hands by 2045, and these structures decide how much gets taxed. Private foundations finish the picture. Give the taxable remainder to a foundation the family controls, collect the deduction, and keep the boardroom seats, the salaries, and the name on the buildings. Line the whole ladder up, and the pattern is blunt. The less you die with, the larger the share of it that courts, fees, and strangers take on the way down. What looks like a public court case is really a quiet non-event. So the machine's final trick is perception. At the bottom, death looks like an ending that cost your family money. At the top, it is engineered to look like nothing happened. Here is the part worth keeping. None of the middle rungs are secret or expensive. A will costs a few $100s, a living trust a few thousand. Beneficiary forms are free. The estate system will process your death either way, at whatever level you reach. The only open question is whether you wrote the instructions or a courtroom wrote them for you.